Hello and welcome to volume 2 of What's Wrong with This DJ Setup. Our second victim is Bill Good. He submitted this picture. Now before we get into Bill's picture, I want to talk about Matthew Renee, his setup that I posted for volume 1 of this. There were a couple of questions and comments that I wanted to address. Somebody had said, well, you're not going to get kickback at 120 degrees. On paper, perhaps you won't. If you are somebody who likes to make those paper tigers and kind of try to figure out how things are going to work once you put them out there in the wild, I can tell you this. You're not going to completely be able to test your theories until you put them into practical application. And in practical application, they are indeed kicking back. That's the experience that I've had when I've had them next to me. And that little 15-degree toe, even a 10-degree toe, is going to help reduce that kickback. Now, the reason I do it is to actually avoid something else that Ben Stowe was telling me about. It's called comb filtering. Now, I listen to people smarter than me because I'm not an audio engineer. I don't play one on TV. I'm just BSR. I'm not Ben Stowe, so don't confuse that. I may get the science wrong, but the application is correct. So, Ben was trying to avoid a phenomenon called comb filtering, which is when a signal hits your ear, or two signals hit your ear at the same time. It can almost create a reverb effect. And it could be somewhere in the room. If you spend a lot of time walking around the room, maybe you could find this. If you have your Evolve series speakers facing straight out, somewhere the signal's going to crisscross, and you may hear this. I haven't heard it, but apparently it's a possibility with these speakers. So what Ben does to help avoid that possibility is to do a slight toe out. And I think he did 10 or 15 degrees or whatever it was. So I did that, and it turns out it also helps get rid of that kickback. Actually, it does get rid of that kickback. So, in practical application, yeah, this helps with the kickback and the comb filtering phenomenon. So I would recommend that everybody, if you've got the Evolve series speakers, or really any array, to, compact array like this, just kick them out a little bit. Might help. Somebody else said, well, what if you raise the speakers up a little bit? What if you got those tops higher in the air? On the Evolve series, they're set in one spot. The only way you can raise them up in the air would be by putting them on some kind of a platform, because the poles are set in height. You can't move them. And they're kind of designed to hit people right in the ear. And it's nice because they're full-range speakers and they're smooth and they work. It goes against everything that I've always known about audio, but it does work. And we'll get into that with Bill's setup soon. Somebody else or a few people are actually talking about shooting lights at the ceiling and how they've tried this, and it's worked very well for them, and it will. And we'll get more into that again with Bill's setup, because there's stuff to talk about here. So here's Bill Good. Here's his setup, and it's a beautiful venue. Look at this place. And it's daytime. I don't know if this is going to be a nighttime event and he's set up during the day, or if it's just a daytime event. But the first thing I want to talk about has nothing to do with that. The first thing I want to talk about is speaker placement of his second set of tops. I can't tell what brand they are, but they look identical to me. Just looking at them in the picture, it looks like he's got two identical, whatever they are, QSC, RCF, FPT, some three initial thing. I don't have my glasses on today. But when you add, if you have two sets of speakers and you want it louder, you want something to be noticeably louder, you add a second set of speakers. That's what you do. So he's done that. He wants it louder. He's added a second set of speakers. Here's where it's not going to work as well as he may like it to. Notice he's got his second set of speakers sitting directly on top of subwoofers. Now those are two-way speakers. They're horn loaded. The horns, produce the highs. And what the highs don't do is travel through anything that's in front of them, like dancers. Okay? So I highly recommend that if you're using two-way top cabinets, to elevate them, get them up in the air so the horn is over the tallest person in the room's head. Because if there's nothing blocking that horn, it's going to travel. And that's what you want the sound to do. Travel. If he's got the speakers down low like that, they're going to hit bodies on the dance floor, and it's not going to go anywhere. So he will realize a degree of mid bass, because bass is not really affected as much by stuff in front of it like dancers, but definitely the mid is and the highs are. So I would recommend that Bill would get those up on tripods too. So you could put them right next to each other. You could spread them apart, however you want to do it. But if you really need more sound, that's how I would do it. And the other thing is, if he adds the extra set of speakers, he didn't add an extra set of subs. So is it really going to be louder? Well, the highs and the mids will be, but the bass won't be. But if you wanted the bass louder, what Bill could do, and this would actually work really well for what he's got going on here, he could couple those subwoofers. Now, coupling is simply putting the two subwoofers right next to each other, like where they're touching. And you get, I believe, a 3 dB gain with that. Again, I'm not an audio engineer, but I believe it's a 3 dB gain. And at 3 dB, you do realize something being louder. So let's say that you're turning up your music on your line fader and you're at minus 3 dB, okay, on your channel. Once you reach 0 dB, that's a 3 dB gain, and you realize more loudness. It's got to go that high to actually hear something being louder. So if Bill were to put those speakers that he's got on top of the subs up on tripods as well as the first set of speakers, and couple those subwoofers, put it right next to each other, they would realize a lot more loudness at this event. Now, does he need it? I don't know. I don't know how many people are supposed to be here, if this is too much system, whatever. That's kind of a matter of sound objectives. But a cool place to couple these subs, I think, would be right in front of his stand. I think that would work really well. It would help a little bit, not only sound-wise, but maybe aesthetically as well. It might look a little nicer if you put those there. But I'm not here to grade anybody on aesthetics. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to offer some advice as to how to improve what you have right there. Like, if I was there right now, what could I do? I could add another set of tripods and get those speakers in the air. I could couple those subs. That I could do. I wouldn't really have to bring anything extra in except an extra set of tripods. So that's that. The lighting. It's the same thing I had to say about the lighting in the last video, where if you are shining lights directly at people, that might be painful for them to look at. Now, they're high in the air. The light trees are way up in the air. I'm thinking he's got, I don't know, what, 8-foot light trees there? Maybe 10-foot light trees? They're tall. That's pretty high. Maybe they're 10-footers. Forgive the dog and cat running around upstairs. And he's got, some kind of beam shooting down. That's a cool effect. But those pars, I'm assuming there's a white ceiling on there because everything else is white. Columns are beautiful. Everything around here is white. You got the checkerboard floor. If he would aim those pars on his light trees up at the ceiling, again, he'd get the same phenomenon that I was talking about in the last video. The light would reflect down onto the audience, and I think he'd get a better wash. And a lot of people have discovered this, as I'd mentioned in the last video. There were a lot of comments about how, people have found that this is pretty helpful. One guy said, well, one time I forgot my tripod, and I discovered this by accident, that shooting him up works really well. Better. Dogs and cats, sorry about that. Cats and dogs, it's going to hell. What are you going to do? They're playing. They're a puppy and a kitten. Anyway, they discovered by accident it actually works better than the things being on the tree shining out. Now, I don't know if those are removable from the system he has here. I don't know if this is a gig bar thing. I'm not real familiar with them. But actually, if Bill would put those on the floor and shoot them up, he might get a wider spot or beam. It'd be a spot, I guess, on the ceiling. It's a wider area, and he might even get a better wash than having him on light trees pointing him up. There's one more thing I wanted to mention, and this kind of goes against what I was saying, where I wanted to kind of work with whatever Bill had here. I see a missed opportunity, and it's those columns, those white columns. Now, like I said, I don't know if this is supposed to be a daytime event or this is a daytime shot before a nighttime event, but those columns are begging to be uplit. Just begging. If you put some nice pars under those columns, and even if you just left them sound active, those columns would look fantastic. They would just blow right up. It would look really cool aesthetically. You're highlighting architectural detail this way. And some of that wash that you use to uplight the columns is going to hit the ceiling, reflect down on the audience. Not only that, but you're going to get a lot of reflection off of that white onto the audience, helping to create more wash. That's what I got for Bill. Otherwise, it looks like Bill's got some nice stuff there. I mean, there's plenty of sound. Again, I don't know how many people he's playing for. I don't know if that's too much sound, not enough sound. I have no idea. But that's what I'm seeing just from looking at the photo. What I would change with what he has to work with right there in front of him, I think would work better. With the speakers for sure. And the lighting, hey, if this is a nighttime event, I think that would work really well by, shooting them up. And it creates such a cool effect. If you haven't shot your lights up on a white ceiling yet, your PARs, try it. There's nobody in the comment section who's going to tell you this doesn't work who's tried it. Everyone's going to tell you that it's the way to go. That's it. I hope you guys like this series. If you do, leave a comment, hit the like button, and submit your pictures. I have plenty of pictures to choose from. But I saw Bill's. I thought there was some cool stuff to talk about, especially with that speaker placement. And again, aesthetically, I mean, look, that's something that I feel like only DJs care about. An audience member isn't going to look at this and go, oh, I don't like that. If you've never seen a band set up, then you'll know that Bill's looks fantastic. Because a band's going to make things a lot more chaotic looking. You're going to have 4 to 5 different people, maybe more, with all their equipment combined, cables everywhere. It's going to be a mess. Nothing's going to look uniform. What Bill has looks nice and neat and clean compared to any band I've seen. So, yeah, I'm not making any criticisms on that. I'm only talking about, what might work better for Bill's experience and the audience's experience with what he's got to work with. So, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Take care, practice, and enjoy.